Guys, I'm gonna start recording. The recording has already started. It's being recorded from the beginning. So I'll post the recording in our channel after the class. The lab or workshop is already being recorded. Meanwhile, can you see my NetBeans, everyone? Do you have NetBeans started on your computer? Okay, very good. I'm going to start from the very, very beginning. That is creating a Java web app project. Okay. Now, to create a project, you can select this icon with a plus and brown folder, or go to File, New Project. Okay. Create a new project and use Java with Ant. Hang on. No, don't use Java with Ant. If you don't have Java web app here, use Maven web application. If you don't have the web app with the Ant, so your NetBeans categories would look slightly different to mine. If you select Java with Ant, select Java Web. If you don't have this option under Java with Ant, then use Maven web application. But first selection will be Java with Ant, Java Web, and then web application. Do you all have this category? Once you do, select Next. Call your project Labs. Now, we're going to be working on this project for the rest of the semester. Okay, guys? We're going to be using this project called Labs for the rest of the semester, and we're going to update it every week. Select Next. It's going to ask you which server. Now I have Glassfish, I have Pariah, I have Tomcat. Okay, I'm gonna keep using Tomcat. For you, just add Glassfish. If you don't have any servers, click on this button called Add. Select the Glassfish server. Select Next, and from the servers, select 4.1.1. I recommend this very much. And then select Remote and tick I have read and accept. Now, I already downloaded this, so I can't download it again. But for you, after you tick this, click Next to download it and then click Finish. Again, I'm going to go back. If you don't have any server here, I would like you to select Glassfish. Or if you don't have any server at all to select from, select the Add button. Then select Glassfish server. There are several options. Then select Next. From the drop-down menu, select Glassfish server 4.1.1. Select Remote domain. Select I have read and accept the license agreement. Next, wait for it to download and finish. But I already have a server, so when your server is ready, click Next. Don't choose anything, leave this unticked. We're not going to use Spring or JSF or any struts. And then select Finish. After you selected Finish, in a moment, NetBeans will generate a project for you. NetBeans generated a project called Labs for me. Now inside the Labs, I have the web pages, I have the WebInf, I have the meta, I have the source packages, I have my libraries, Now, right here, I'm expecting you to have JDK 1.8. Okay. Who has generated the project successfully now? Were you able to do that? Okay. Now, what do we do next? In the web pages, we have index.html. You only need to choose Java Web, nothing else. Either from Ent or Maven, but you need to choose Java Web. Okay. I did not choose anything else. I chose Java Web. Now you have index.html. I would like you to delete index.html. You have different Java version. If it did not work for you, you have to use a different server to make it work. Okay. Now this setup, JDK and NetBeans should have been done in the first 4 weeks. Now pay attention to my demo. After you delete index.html, right click on web pages, select new and select JSP. Create a new JSP called index and then select finish. Now a JSP page, which is similar to the HTML I just deleted, has been created. The only difference between this and the index.html is this line of code, this tag. This tag we call it directive. Placing this tag at the top means my page, my HTML page, now understand JSP code. Means I can write dynamic Java code inside the HTML and the compiler will understand it. So I'm gonna call this a home page and I'm gonna clean build. Click on this button to clean build. Build successful. This button right there will run and deploy. As soon as you do this, a Glassfish or Tomcat will run. If it's using Internet Explorer and you want to change the browser, select here and select Chrome. Okay, and run again. Now, my page, localhost labs, index JSP runs and prints hello world. So I successfully launched and deployed my first Java web app. Any questions so far? Now, this is the very basic landing page or home page. The title there, home page. Now, let's minimize that. Now, I'm going to add some styling to my page to make it look nice. And then I'm going to add 2 links. One is called register. One is called login to my code. Okay. So first off, if you want to add some styling to your application, you could use your own CSS or you could use Bootstrap. It's fine by me, or any other library that allows you to make your web page look better. We allow you to use any library because there are no marks for styling. We only mark you on the Java and JSP code. Nevertheless, I will show you how to use it. If you want to use CSS in your Java web app, right click on web pages, select new and select folder. Let's create a new folder called CSS. This folder is created in my hierarchy. Now inside the CSS folder, create a new. If you don't find the CSS selection here, go to Other. In the Other, at the bottom in the categories, find Cascading Style Sheet, or simply search for it right here in the filter. Next, create a file called layout CSS. Now inside this layout CSS, I'm going to place some styling code. I have done my styling, so you could copy this from the web. So I'm going to copy mine and paste it. First, I want to change the rules for the body. How about we place a background image right there? Let's Google UTS FEIT and download the document. And put this document. I'm going to download this and put this document at the background of our page. So save image. I'm just gonna put it in my desktop. I'm gonna call it FEIT. So first, to put it in your background, you need to have it inside the CSS folder. So drag and drop it right there. Now, FEIT JPEG exists in my project. Okay, guys? Then I need to specify the CSS rules. Now, I created my own CSS rules before I come to class. To set up the background, we use the background attribute, and we specify URL FEIT JPEG, and it will find this in the CSS. No repeat, resize. I can set the letter spacing between the word, font family, for example. If I save and go and deploy again, if I deploy, there's no background yet, simply because I haven't linked my CSS to my index.jsp. To link it, I will use the link tag. Inside the link, I'll specify the relation, that is style sheet, and also I'll specify the reference, that is where the CSS is located. It's inside CSS, and I am using layout.css. As soon as I save and go and refresh, it refreshed automatically on save. If it doesn't, just refresh. The background has been added correctly, and Hello World font style has changed, and there is like 3 or 4 pixels spacing between the words. Okay. Any questions so far about what I did? Now, how about we add a menu bar right here with some background and change this to a different format, and also add 2 links, register and login, and next to it. So since you're going to add several items and group them together, it is best to use a div. Okay, div. Now, as soon as I put them in the div, the header is gone. This is no longer formatted as big letters. So I need to apply my own formatting rules. In your CSS, when you specify the word body like that, means any tag that is called body will follow these rules. You can isolate a single tag and specify a specific rule to this single tag using ID. For example, hash bar. Anything labeled ID equal bar will have these rules applied to it. So if I want to apply the bar rules to this div, I would say ID equals bar. Now, if I save and go back to my page, oh, it hasn't loaded yet. Let me clean build and deploy again. Now it will work. Okay, now as soon as I deployed, the color has changed to white and I have a opaque bar and I can see through. Let's explain the rules. It's a fixed position, 0 from top left and right. Opacity is 0.7, so it's gonna see through. You can see the building in the background. I added some padding, I changed the font size, I changed the text color, and I changed the background color. Okay. Now, how about I add 2 links? So I'm gonna create 2 anchors. One is called login, and then the other one is called register. The login will take us to the link login JSP, and the register will take us to the register JSP. Now, if you want to add items within a div, it is better to group them together using a span. So add a span and close it and surround the links with it. Now, if I save and go back to my links, I have my links there, but they're still following the same rules of the div. If I want to separate the rules, I could, for instance, specify a new rule called links, and then go ahead and isolate my span and apply links to it. Now, if I save and go back to my page, okay, let me load. Clean build, sometimes the rules don't apply right away. Okay, now the links have different font size, different font color, and they move to the right according to my links rules. Different spacing, word spacing, floated to the right, different padding, different font size. Okay. How about also we apply some rules to the links and make them look like a button every time we hover over them. So I copied some rules from the internet. You could copy it as well. For every tag A, now we'll have these rules applied to it. Now let's see what happens when I refresh. Now the links turn green. If I hover over them, they look like a button. See how cool it is? Now, what if I want to add a footer? Let's add a div And inside this div, I want to say footer goes here. Now I have certain rules I created for the footer as well. I'm going to add the footer rules. Now right here, when I specify the name of the tag alone, means every A will have these rules applied. I could isolate specific tag using an ID hash or a class. Dot footer means a class called footer. Now I have these rules. If I want to apply these rules to this div, since it is a class, I will use the class attribute and I'll call the footer class. Save and go ahead and clean build. And run. Now you look here, and then I placed a footer at the bottom of the page. Now how about instead of footer goes here, I want to add a dynamic clock. To add a dynamic clock means I need an interactive programming language, such as JavaScript. You are allowed to use JavaScript only for styling. To use JavaScript in your Java web app, also right-click on the web pages and select folder. Let's call it JS. You can place your JS rules. Inside the JS folder, create a new. If you don't see JavaScript here, go to Other, and then go to Other and find JavaScript file. Next, let's call it index.js. You could have several files. Now I create my function, JS functions. I actually copied them from the internet. You are allowed to do that. I have one function called start time, one function called check time. And it will find any element by ID clock and apply these rules to it. So let's go to my JSP and label this ID equals clock. Okay, let's remove this text. Now, to start the time, I need to start it when I load the page. So when I load the body, I will use the on load and pass the start time on load. Nothing will happen yet because I haven't linked my JS to my JSP. To do that, use the script tag and specify the type of the script, that is text JavaScript, and then specify the source where the script is located. It's inside JS and then called index.js. Now if I save and then reload the page, let me clean build again. And run. Now, if you look right here at the footer, I have a dynamic clock, which is the accurate clock coming from my PC. CSS and JavaScript are not part of this subject, so I'm only showing you how to integrate it inside your Java web app. Right now, in our current situation, if I select login or register, let's say I select register, it's gonna generate an error code 404. Means the page is not found. I'm trying to request this page from the server and the server cannot find it. That's what 404 means. Which means I need to program register and login. Going back to my web app, I right click on web pages and create a new JSP called login. And then I also create a new JSP called register. The login, I'm gonna call this login page as a title. A register, I'm gonna call this a register page. Or I can even do better. I'll copy all this code and place it right here. Now, instead of home page, register, and instead of home page, login. In the index, I would say now ISD demo, and the login, I would say sign in, and the register sign up. Now in the login, I will change the page to register JSP and call this register, and allow a link here to go back to the home page that is index.jsp. I call this home. Same for register. I can either log in or go back home. When you are creating your web app, make sure that I never need to press the back button at the top of the browser. So if I deploy and go, now I can log in, go to the login page, it says sign in. I should never need to press these two buttons. I can either go to register or go back home. And they all have the same background. Now, next lesson, everyone. Sorry. Next lesson is how to create a form. If I want to register, I must create a HTML form and with a submit button. And when I submit, it should take me to a new location. So let's say in a register, I want to create a form that allow me to register my name, email, password, phone, date of birth, and gender. So 6 attributes. To create a form, open the tag form and specify the destination or the action. Action, I want to go to the welcome JSP when I post, and I will use the method post to post my data. Now, welcome JSP does not exist, so I need to go ahead and program it. Create a new page called welcome. And I'm going to copy the data from index and place it right here. And I say now, welcome page. Okay. And on the welcome page, I can either log out or go back home. I can either log out because you only get to the welcome page after you log in or register. So I need log out or go to main JSP. When you log out, it should take you to the logout JSP. So these are 2 pages I haven't programmed yet. Now, let me go ahead and create the logout JSP, and then copy all from index, Control O and V, so we don't have, so we have the same background. This is logout page, and create another page called main, Control O V. This is the main page of the application. Now in the logout, I wouldn't have these links, or I would have one link that says home. Or index.jsp, and it says home. And I will remove the second one. In my main, I will have logout JSP for now. Okay. Now let's clean build and see how the application looks like after I created all those pages, how it is linked. If I select register, it takes me to the register page. Now, if I have a page here and I click submit, it would take me to the welcome JSP. Now in the welcome JSP, I can either log out or go to main. Let's say I go to main, I should say login. I go to logout and then I go home. Let me change this one a bit in main to say logout. So when you are defining your web application, make sure it is a full circle. From every page, you can always go back to the beginning. Now that my application is full circle, let me go back to the register, to the form that I was creating. When you are creating a form, there are several ways to do it. I prefer using a table to place the attributes. It's easier to organize a table. Now we need a row for every attribute. So for the name, we need a cell for the label and another cell for the input. The input is of type text. When I enter my name, I enter text. Always give it a name. This name is the ID which the data is going to be known by. So when you post it, if you're trying to retrieve it later, it's going to be stored in the session and known by the ID name. So let's copy this and paste it 6 times. After name, there is email. Email is also type text. Make sure you change the ID. Now later on, when you are constructing your own register, make sure you stick to the names that we asked you to do in the lab. And then password. Password should be hidden, so the type should be password. So when you type, it's hidden. And let's call the ID password. Phone, type text, and let's call it phone. And then we have gender. Gender is a drop-down menu, and date is a drop-down menu. So how about I elaborate on this? If I run my code right now and check my register, I have a really nice form started to build up. Okay, let me apply some styling to it. Now it looks out of place and it looks really ugly. I've created a new CSS file called form. So new cascading style sheet form.css. In this form, I have something called table that fixes the table at certain position and applies some rules. So to apply that to my register in the table, I would say class table. As soon as I do this, save, go and refresh, and also let me rebuild, clean build again. Sometimes rules need to redeploy the application. If I go to register, oh yeah, I haven't included my form CSS, so I include my form CSS in my register. Save again. Now if I go and refresh, the form looks different and it is at the perfect position from the menu bar. Now let's place the gender and date right here, and let's place the submit instead of name. So I'm going to format my code as following. This input is the submit, so I want to put it right here. So it is of type submit and value equals sign up. Sign up will be labeled on the button. Okay, let me delete them too. Now if I save and go and see my page, the button is right there, and now I want to add the date and the what is it called, the gender drop down menus underneath these boxes. But first, let's change the layout of the sign up. In my form CSS, I have a rule called button that changes the button rules. So I go to my register and apply class button to my button. Let's refresh and go back here. Look at my button is changed. It's similar to these, and every time I highlight, it turns green. Now if I select sign up, it should take me to the welcome page. Now let's see why is it not doing it. Type submit, value submit, sorry. Now underneath, I want to add the date right here and the gender. So instead of this particular input, let's add the date, the gender input. The gender is a select. So you can go online and copy a select, and the date is an input of type date. So basically I already created that, so I don't need to type it. For gender, you can select male, female, or other, and the input type date will create a drop-down menu. So if I save and go back to my page and reload, look, I have the gender, and then I have the date. Let me close this, and clean build and run. If I select register, now I could submit my data, and oh, it's not taking me to the register page. Oh, action, not access key, action. Let me keep this one named sign up. Continue. If I fill up again and sign up, it takes me to the welcome page, but the data hasn't been transported. Next week we do this. Next week we will transport the data from register and capture it in the welcome, okay, and print it on the welcome. And this is the end of my demo. Okay, guys. Now this application, I've created it for you on my GitHub. So if you go to my GitHub, if you go to ISD Labs, you can find it. Simply download it, and then you have all my CSS and JS and everything. So I'm going to post my GitHub in the chat as well. Any questions, everyone? Okay, what I would like you to do after you download the code from my GitHub, this is my GitHub ID. I also posted the link in the chat. I would like you to start from scratch. After you do your setup, watch these videos how to create a Java web app. Then create a register form with these attributes, same as I did. And then for task 3, simply clean build and deploy. It will generate a WAR file. And then do the acceptance testing, or first do the unit testing and then do the acceptance testing. Unit testing are software, acceptance testing are manual. Okay? But first thing first, start with task 1. Any questions, everyone? I posted the code on GitHub, and the GitHub link is in the chat.